Everybody, welcome to Do You Believe? Thanks so much for joining me tonight. Now tonight our show is on the haunted Sallie House. Other guests tonight are David Weatherly, author of The Black-Eyed Children, and he has been on the show before, and hopefully you've seen that video. I do have it on YouTube. That show is on YouTube. And our other guest is Michael Esposito, who is an EVP specialist. Now, let's see, David, would you please tell the viewers just a little information about you, about yourself?
Well, sure, Norene. I've been investigating and researching the paranormal for 35 years now. Everything from cryptid encounters to haunted locations to UFO encounters. And I've only recently just started writing more actively, because most of my time over the years has been spent actively investigating cases and sites. The Black-Eyed Children book was the first one I published. It came out earlier this year, and there's a couple of more books on the way later this year.
Nice. Let me show the everybody a picture of you. Michael is an expert in EVPs, and we will be playing some of his EVPs tonight. So can you tell the viewers about yourself now, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yay! You can hear me now.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm an EVP researcher. I've gotten my undergraduate and graduate degrees in communication theory from Purdue University, University of Notre Dame, American University in Cairo, Egypt, Governor State University, and been studying communications now for many, many years, and I've done research on EVP all over the world. My lineage, my ancestry, includes Alfred Vail, who invented the Morse code, with Samuel Morse, and Jonathan Hart Vail, who was Thomas Edison's office manager in his later years when he was attempting to develop a spirit communication device. I was a PSYOPs officer in the Gulf War, and I actually got into EVP when I was building computers and started to work in tweaking the computers with ultrasound and infrasonic ranges and microsound theory. I do a lot of research and writing under the moniker of Phantom Airwaves and other monikers as well. I do experimental music with many experimental musicians around the world, and what we do is we go around to locations and record the actual location themselves, as well as the EVPs, and then we pull the EVPs out and build a frequency-specific composition based on the structure and the EVPs, sort of a audioscopic archaeological snapshot, if you will.
Wow.
And basically, I tour all over the world, give lectures, workshops, concerts, and investigations. This year, I did London, Sweden, and Switzerland. I just got back from Switzerland, so I'm still a bit off.
Wow.
But I've developed a lot of theories. I'm currently releasing a series of flexi discs that include writings, for the lack of wanting to sit down and write an entire book by myself. So a lot of the postulates and theories that I've developed based on microsound theory and energy, quantum physics of energy, time, sound, and duration of sound, come through in a series called the Phantom Monographs. So those Phantom Monographs come with a flexi, and basically phenomena that I'm talking about.
Oh my God, that's very scientific. Is
Yeah,
it?
I handle the scientific end. I have a research partner, Heidi Hartman, who's a Reiki master and energy worker. She brings a lot of the metaphysical end of things in, and we together perform a lot of experiments, especially based on sound healing and theories of absorbed or embedded frequencies in materials, based on healing frequencies and different types of more metaphysical stuff. So I handle more of the scientific end and the sound research.
Wow.
And she handles sort of the fuzzy bits, if you will.
Wow, very interesting. Okay, so I brought you fellas here tonight, you as my guests, because we're here to talk about the haunted Sallie House. Now I know both of you have had experiences at the Sallie House. David has had experiences, and also Michael. And Michael will be playing some EVPs. I've downloaded at least 9 EVPs, and he can explain those. So Michael, do you mind if I start with David first? And you guys can, if you have anything else to say to each other or any questions, feel free. So, David, will you tell us why you went to Sallie House, when, and what your experiences were?
Well, I went to the Sallie House because of its reputation. I had seen it on a few of the programs. It became very popular after the television show Sightings did an episode on it. And that honestly is sort of what brought national attention to the house, because prior to that it wasn't really known for the type of location that it is. A couple had moved in I believe 92, named Tony and Deborah Pickman. And when they moved into the house, they started experiencing a wide range of phenomena. They were hearing voices, they were having various things move, poltergeist type of activity almost. And this activity rapidly grew, to the point that Tony Pickman in particular was getting scratches manifesting on his arms, on his back. And as a result, they started reaching out for help. They reached out to some paranormal investigators. And the long and short is that a gentleman named Peter James ended up coming out to the Sallie House and investigating. Now, Peter James, a lot of your listeners are probably going to recognize his name. Yeah. He was extremely well known as the gentleman who had done the most research on the Queen Mary.
Yes.
But he also investigated a lot of other sites, and he was involved with the television show Sightings in the 90s, when they would take him to these locations and have him investigate and film the investigation. And in fact, during the Sightings episode, when Peter James went in, Tony Pickman received scratches during this investigation. So it seemed to be a very active place. Peter is the one who, to my knowledge, is the one who came up with the whole concept of this little girl, Sallie, and hence the name that has sort of stuck over the years is the Sallie House. But I had heard about the reputation of the house and was really, really interested in it. And eventually, went and did an investigation there. Found it to be a very active location. We had, items moving around, lots of EVPs, as I'm sure Michael was going to fill us in. I'm looking forward to hearing some of those. And just some very strange activity. I've only investigated it a couple of times. I'm not sure, what my final conclusions are at this point on it. I'm not convinced that it is actually a little girl named Sallie that is in the location. It seems to continue to go through a metamorphosis. A lot of people in the last couple of years especially have talked about this being a demonic location. And my personal opinion is I don't really buy that either, but a lot of people, when you mention the Sallie House, that's their immediate conclusion. They'll start talking about it being a place where there's demonic activity.
Yeah, right. Right. Now, I understand that the Sallie House, the first known incident was recorded in 1906 at the Sallie House. And a doctor and his family had owned the Sallie House. And he brought this little girl in to do an operation on her. Was it an appendectomy?
That's correct.
And she died on the operating table, and so supposedly she's supposed to be haunting the Sallie House?
Right, that's correct. That is supposedly the origin of Sallie, the girl. And, personally, I haven't researched that historical aspect of it enough to know if there's evidence to support that story. My understanding is a lot of these details came up during Peter James, who was a psychic, during his investigations, and some of this at least was information that he brought forward. But, it's important in these locations, any of these locations that we go in to examine, if you're really going to study it and try to get to the root of what's going on there, to look at the history and see how many facts you can find to support what the current claims are.
Yeah, now the Sallie House has been on numerous TV shows. Unsolved Mysteries, Sightings. Now they also did a television movie called Haunted Heartland. Now I had seen that movie. I had no idea it was about the Sallie House. No idea. But that was a good movie.
There's been some other independent documentaries made in there too.
As well.
And you have to understand that this is a location that hundreds of people focus on as being a source of a particular haunting. Sometimes a lot of these people focus on it being a location of demonic activity. And, one of my perspectives on these types of locations is that you have hundreds of people going there, essentially adding energy into the pool and essentially helping co-create some of what's going on there, if that makes sense to you.
Tim from Live Sci-Fi has just entered the studio.
Hello.
Welcome. Do you want to come and join us? We have David and we have Michael on the phone.
Hello, you guys. Hello.
And to the viewers out there, for those who don't know, this is Tim Wood, founder and owner of Live Sci-Fi. Welcome.
Co-owner now. Yeah, co-owner.
Oh, co-owner?
Yeah.
Who's the owner? Yahoo?
No, and One World Studios. So that's our...
World-renowned studio?
No, one
One?
world. Yeah.
Okay.
One world, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Big time over here.
No.
Okay, so, are you okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I'm
so, David, do you want to add anything else to the Sallie House?
Well, Tim's got impeccable timing, and actually I can throw this question at him. Because of what we were talking about when you walked in, Tim, do you know if there is historical documentation to support a girl named Sallie actually dying in the house?
There is no historical information.
Yeah.
There's only the only Sallie, I believe that anybody...
When Tim came in, Norene, and that a lot of these locations, particularly some of the more popular historic locations, and I can name a couple if you would like. There are some of these locations that a myth grows up around them because somewhere along the way someone tells a story that gets attached to the location. And the result is that, hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of people go to this location looking for one particular ghost. A perfect example is the Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana. I love the site. It's an incredible place. And I've investigated there many, many times. The most well-known ghost in that location is a woman named Chloe.
Right.
And there's a whole myth about Chloe, poisoning food to kill the daughters and having their ears cut off and all these things. There's no historical documentation for Chloe.
There isn't? Wait a minute.
People have even
David, what do you mean there's no documentation about Chloe?
There's no documentation to show that Chloe ever existed.
Oh my God.
And another one of those would be Bobby Mackey's.
Bobby Mackey's is another one. Tim and I have talked about it extensively. Myths grow up around these places. And, you know, really, if you look, for instance, if you dig into the history of the Myrtles, you'll find that the gentleman that Chloe was supposedly having an affair with, well, he was well known for being very devoted to his wife. There was never any indication that he was having an affair or you know, sleeping with his slaves or any of these types of things.
Oh my God!
In fact, the documentation for those children actually shows that they died of I believe it was yellow fever.
Oh my God!
So they were not poisoned, but yet if you go to this day to the Myrtles and go on the ghost tour, and you will hear this whole tale.
Okay, David, hold it right there. David,
you know, she
David.
wears a turban because her ears are cut.
David!
She poisons
No,
children.
David.
It's just not true.
Hey, David!
Thousands of people have gone to the Myrtles with the sole intent of hoping to catch a picture of Chloe. I've talked to people numerous times when I've been at the location who, you know, amateur ghost hunters, they'll call themselves or whatever, and they're coming. And even, sadly, a lot of paranormal groups that will go there. And, you know, I've just asked them very innocently, you know, what are you hoping to catch? Well, we're hoping to catch, you know, some evidence of Chloe. We're hoping to catch a photograph of her. Or, you know, an EVP of her saying something. But you see, there's no historical evidence to support this person ever carrying out these acts. That everyone...
David, can you...
I'm a little late, but Michael is Michael
You know,
still
there
Yeah,
are
he's on the phone.
very strange pieces of evidence. There's a famous photograph that was taken at the Myrtles between the main plantation building and the outbuilding. There's a small alley, and there's a photograph that was taken. I'm sure you can find it on the internet that purports to be Chloe, and it does indeed look like a woman standing with a dress and a turban on. And she fits the description of what everyone believes Chloe looks like. So,
It's here.
you know, now we're getting into the range of, like I said, people going there and adding energy to co-create something that wasn't necessarily there before. Now, there's a lot of ways to examine that because, you know, it could be some kind of a spirit energy that's already there that is utilizing that route to manifest because that's what people are expecting.
David,
Yeah.
can you hear me? Okay, you know what I want to do? I want to do another show on wait a minute, listen to me, on haunted locations that are giving out the wrong information. Okay, so we're going to debunk the Myrtles, the Bobby Mackeys, and other places. So that's going to be another great show we're going to do, okay?
Well, and possibly the Sallie House, bringing it full circle to what we're talking about to begin with.
Okay,
Because,
all right.
as Tim said, no historical documentation to support the idea of this little girl named Sally being in the house, but at the same time, people are catching EVPs of a little girl. You know, people, the Pickmans had evidence of a young girl, so we sort of bring that full circle.
Okay. Michael, you still with us?
I am, and just to build a little bit off of what David was just saying, my research partner, Heidi Harmon, and I have been working on some theories lately that we pick up just basically on what we've been working on as far as deconstructing what spirit is or spirit energy is, that when we as investigators go from one place to another, we pick up little bits and pieces of spirit energy from one place and we can actually leave it at other places. So there's this whole concept of, it's sort of built on Sheldrake's morphic fields theories, but that we pick up little bits and pieces of energy and we can actually transport them and leave them at other places.
Now, Michael, would you like to talk about the Sallie House and your experiences there? And I have 9 EVPs that I was able to download for you.
Okay.
Wait, David, before you do that, but maybe we should first ask him, since we're on the topic now, what do you believe is at the Sallie House, to start off?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm sorry, Michael. Michael, what do you believe is at the Sallie House?
Basically, and I've experienced this in a couple other places, but in the late 1500s, early 1600s, or that's about the right time period, Emanuel Swedenborg in Sweden, who was a huge philosopher and a great writer, he lived in a place, it was his summer house, where he spoke to spirits of the dead daily basis. One day he woke up from a dream, and he dreamed he was being choked by a spirit of a human. And this, what he called Punisher Angel, came and ripped the spirit into pieces. Now, I call them elementals because, and not necessarily because they're related to nature or anything, but simply because they were never human. They're always been here, and they may be thought of as archangels in some religions, or other things, or punisher spirits, or watchers, or what have you. But the idea is that they exist and gather up spirit energy or spirits, ghosts, what have you, and keep them from interacting or messing with humans. And they're really mean, and they're real nasty. And there was a Japanese anime called Yu Yu Hakusho, actually about this, called about a spirit detective, and their jobs were to keep angels and demons from, or ghosts of humans and demons from interacting with humans. What I think is, I think it's in the basement, is pretty much, it's an elemental, and I've done a lot of work down there and throughout the house with, Tom Naughton and the crew, and Amy Allen, who you can see the Dead Files now, which I did a lot of work on in the early stages of that show, and things like that. And we've had some experiences down there that were real horrendous. But a lot of the EVPs and stuff we got at the Sallie House kind of lend to the idea that some spirits are afraid to talk, or we can't talk, or he's coming, they're coming, things like that. I've experienced this in a couple other places, and I think, and I don't necessarily believe in demons myself, but I do believe that in this idea of an elemental spirit, or a keeper, if you will, to sort of keep and maintain these entities in a single location, and make sure that they don't go out screwing with the living.
So you don't believe in demons? You don't believe in demons then? Huh?
I believe in possession. Now, don't misunderstand that. I believe in possession, and I've actually been jumped a couple times myself in a minor sort of way, which are interesting stories. But I don't believe in demons because of the fact that demons are tied to the Catholic religion.
Okay. Got ya.
And real quick, just to touch on something that, I'm sorry, I'm losing the mic, still a little fuzzy, and our other guest, the Finneys owned the house. They built the house. Actually, when they got there, they lived in the basement section. That was actually the house. And then later they built the top section. And they owned a few of the other houses on the block, and including the house next door. There's a shop at the end of the street. Another house down the street that Scott Unruh, who did the movie The Sallie House, he owns that house. It was a Finney-owned house. And Dr. Finney did have a clinic in that house.
Right.
But there is no record of him accidentally killing some little girl or anything
Really?
like that. That Dr. Finney liked to dress as a woman and go skating.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a strange character indeed.
Oh my God. So who do you believe is haunting the Sallie House, Michael?
I believe that there are a lot of spirits there. And I believe that there's this very badass, pardon the expression, badass elemental there that is very unhappy. Now, after the Dickmans moved out, Les Smith, who owns the house, rented it to this one lady, and I'm not quite sure what possessed her to do it, but she painted a containment hex on the floor of the basement, and it tipped left off so much that he kicked her out and refused to rent the house out to anyone after that, and actually never have. But she kind of messed up the binding hex, and we had it recreated, and it's incorrect. It actually, not sure exactly the details. I'm just with Kansas Paranormal Group at the time, working with them on that. Now, I started, my first time I was at Sallie House, I've been there about 15 times. And the first time I was at the Sallie House was to do interviews for a show called A Haunting, which was written and directed by Tom Naughton, who I've worked with over the years many other times for many other shows. I was with Haunted Voices, Todd Bates, Haunted Voices. I was the head of research, and him and I flew down to Atchison, and we had all kinds of crazy rules because of things happened. We weren't allowed to kill. These are kind of rules that Todd Bates had set up. We weren't allowed to carry cell phones into the house because certain things would happen with Todd and cell phones. And actually, some things have happened since then with cell phones that I could talk about too. But when we got down there, the film crew got there before we did, and they got into the house. And as we were leaving the airport, they called, and they said, well, we decided to do the interviews at the hotel. The walls are too white. We can't film here. So on our way to the hotel, me and Todd actually stopped by the house, and I was telling Todd Bates, that, hey, these walls aren't too white. And one of the EVPs there that you got,
Yeah.
is me saying these walls aren't too white, and you hear a voice that they don't bleed. And later we found out that the camera guys ended up in the basement somehow, and they wouldn't at first talk about exactly what happened, but they refused to go back in the house again.
Ooh.
And they did some exterior shots for the TV show, and that was pretty much it. And they were done.
Wow.
Many of the investigations that I did at the house included Deb and Tony. We were real close for a long time. Me and Deb were both in Haunted Voices, and we actually left Haunted Voices when we put up the first Sallie House website. I think Todd had an issue with not being included in it, and probably fired us. But before that, Todd had gone in with Chris Moon, and then there was a big argument with Chris Moon that Todd and Chris kept up for a long time. In fact, Les had some real big issues with Chris Moon as well, and Chris isn't allowed back in the house. But after Todd and I and Deborah and Renee Leaker came along actually later, it was Todd, Deborah, me, and some of the other guys, Jeremy Pippin and Bonnie Boggs, had done some investigations. Another group started investigating Kansas Paranormal, which at first Deborah was really leery about, and then we all kind of became friends, and Bert's mom, or Renee Leaker, and we all started investigating quite a bit after Deb and I had left Haunted Voices. In fact, Scott Unraw has a movie out. You can actually see the whole movie on YouTube now. It's called The Sallie House.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Yeah, is that the one with Robbie Thomas on it?
Yeah, it's the one with Robbie Thomas on it.
Okay.
But there's great interviews in there with Bert's mom and Les and me, and a lot of great interviews, a lot of great information. And I think UFO TV has posted the whole thing on YouTube now. So I think you can watch the whole thing for free now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you can just Google Sallie House
Oh,
on
good.
YouTube. You can watch
Yeah.
the yeah.
Do you want...
So anyway, Cindy was a doctor, and next store, he owned a house as well, and a woman named Joanne Barnes, who was married to one of the Finneys, was a little nuts, a little crazy. She tried to kill herself and her son by putting her bed by the gas stove and turning on the gas.
The Sallie House?
She ended up living. Her son died. She ended up living and was put in a mental hospital for a very, very long time. And
But the connection is, Michael, just for the people that don't know, the connection is that the Feeneys own the house next door. That's the one he's referring to.
yeah, they actually own quite a few of the houses
Yeah.
on the block. And so she ended up moving to California, and her daughter, who lives in California, had a box of stuff from the Sallie House, and because I think for a short time she lived in the Sallie House as well. But we tried to get that box to no avail for a long time. It was always one of those items that we wanted to get a hold of. If you go to the Sallie House website, Deborah and I had a difference of opinion on how it should be set up. I obviously wanted more of a clinical setting for it. But she has kept most all of the material. I think a lot of Renee's original research is on there, and it's actually quite incredible. In fact, actually, it wasn't Renee's research. Renee was with father and daughter team for Kansas Paranormal Group, and they, the daughter did most of the actual research, and she did some incredible research, including, I don't know if you remember where Peter James had actually gone to the cemetery looking for Sally's grave, but they did a lot of research trying to track down Sally. The closest they ever came was a pauper's grave, a little black slave girl.
So did Peter, did he believe that there was a little girl, Sallie?
No, Peter James actually came up with the, it actually started out saying that S, the little girl starts with an S, and then kind of came up with the word Sally, and that's how that really all started. I have a CD with FM right now called the Sallie House, and it's dedicated to Peter James, who was a great man, absolutely wonderful man. And it came out, the CD came out in 2008, and it's dedicated to him, and it's music with M. Einheit, who was with the industrial band Eichers and Neubauten in the 80s, and EVPs from the Sallie House and different sounds from the Sallie House and stuff built into a composition.
Now I understand that they do, people who have investigated Sallie's house, that they do get EVPs with children talking and playing on their recorders.
Very,
I
I think that's changed.
Oh, it has?
There's no doubt that, and you got to understand how the whole thing started, too. I mean, the whole thing started when Deb and Tony had the baby, and they were up in the nursery, and I think it was the sister come to help and stay with them, and they went upstairs and the light was on, so they went upstairs to turn it off because they thought someone left the light on, and they found all the teddy bears in a circle. They were on shelves and stuff, and they found them in a circle in the middle of the floor with one teddy bear in the middle, and so they put them back on the shelf, and they thought Tony's brother was screwing with them, is what they thought. And they put all the teddy bears down, and they turned off the light. They started heading downstairs, and the light went back on. They went back upstairs, and the bears were back in a circle again in the middle of the floor.
Well, the thing is, okay, Michael, the thing is, many people, I don't know how many people have rented the house, but it has had many tenants. Has anyone else spoken about the Sallie House except for the last people that rented the house?
The tenants, the lady that rented the house before Deb and Tony had a little girl. And the little girl had an imaginary playmate. Her name was Sally. So what you want to make of that? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the former tenant was making that up, or if that's true, or if Sally
It's one of the. I think it's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, Peter James could have got the imaginary playmates name. I mean, you know, the psychic, people who are psychic and psychic ability works in very strange ways for different people. I think everybody has psychic ability, and we have different tools that we are very good at using. I feel like one of mine is the recorder, and the other is dowsing rods or water witching. I can't use pendulums; they don't work for me. I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not, sometimes, occasionally I'm clairaudient, but I'm not completely clairaudient. Amy Allen sees the dead victim, and I honestly believe she does. I've worked with her so long that I just know what that is. I think Robbie Thomas
Is there something
gives
wrong?
psychic impressions.
Yeah.
And I've got one location where he asked, "What's your favorite time of year?" And there's a pause, and he says Christmas, and the EVP in between that pause says Christmas. We did Whisper together, of course, which was a great movie. But I think everyone handles psychic ability differently, and it comes for people with different particular angles or powers, if you will. So we all have a special, some people who are artistic can draw, some people are artistic can sculpt. We all have our particular strengths that we have to find that is our vehicle or our, if you will, for psychic ability.
Yeah, I'm not sure really what's going on there now. All I know is that there's an interconnectivity to all the activity that's going on there.
Oh, well, we've had some insane, I mean, we've had a lot of cases of teleportation.
Mm-hmm.
We were upstairs, in fact, the day that we were upstairs with Tony and Denver when Bird's mom asked if Joanna Barnes, the one who tried to kill herself and ended up killing her son, asked her if she wanted us to bring clergy into the house, and Tony got burnt on the stomach while he was listening to my parabolic microphone. We heard a large bang, and we thought that cabinet doors were slamming downstairs. And then we went downstairs in the middle of the living room. We found an English 2-penny piece with the exact date that Joanna Barnes was born. Which is kind of strange. I've got a photograph of Tony, and behind his head you see a piece of amber hanging in the middle of the air that we found later on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
We've had pens melt. There was a remote control that was missing from Deb and Tony's house that when Todd Bates was there, Tony got scratched pretty bad, and we sat him in a lounge chair in the middle of the living room, told him do not move because he insisted on staying and going in because, he kind of wanted to face his fears.
Mm-hmm.
And he felt something underneath him, and it was the remote that went missing months ago from his house, and it was twisted and burning and fingerprints in it, and they took it over to the sink because it was still smoldering. We had ink pens that were sitting on the table that we found melted, twisted with fingerprints in it. Things happen. Things happen there. Harsh things. Tony getting thrown across the room, smashed into a door. It's so hard that one of his boots, like if you got hit by a car, one of his boots was still on the ground. J.C. Harris got a cross burnt into his chest. Scratching. One time we were there, we smelled like the sickly smell of flowers, or kind of like one of those, a Glade Solid. You know how they smell?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of moved around the room, and we were kind of playing with it. We were, it's over here now. We smell behind Tony now, and then next thing you know, both of his arms are scratched to hell and bleeding all over the place. And it would accumulate, you know, within an hour, and then 3 days that you could barely tell he was attacked. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
David, have you had anything? What type of activity have you experienced at the house?
Nothing real dramatic, to tell you the truth. I mean, when I took a team in there, we did have one person that came up with scratches on his arm. They weren't real heavy. We had a few things that moved, you know, just completely unexplainable. A couple things called a camera moving, and well, strange EVPs, but nothing extremely dramatic. Probably the most dramatic thing that happened, you know, one of the investigators just became so ill that he couldn't stay in there at all and had to leave, and it was just a very extreme dizziness. And you know, once he left the house and was literally out of it and away from it, it just disappeared almost instantly. I attempted to go back into the house, and the same thing occurred. So it was, you know, there was something within the location that he was reacting to specifically.
And my experience is it seems to affect people at different times. You know, I don't know why, but it seems when people are at their most vulnerable point, it seems to strike out at that person. I'm sure, Michael, have you experienced that to any level?
Well, and you know, that's
one time I was just remembering about.
And went with us on that particular occasion, you know, I later found out really
we were up there doing an EVP.
One second, David, we have...
You cannot go into a location like this if you're emotionally vulnerable. You know, if you're already having some issues emotionally and psychologically, you really have no business going into these locations. And in fact, he had went through some emotional trauma, and he really should not have been going into this investigation, but chose to anyway. And I think that was essentially what made him vulnerable. So, you know, the energy that is in that house will react to, you know, what I would call an opening. If someone has a weak spot at the time, it's going to latch on and it's going to affect you. Now, it will affect different people in different ways. Some people may have physical manifestations. Some people may have, you know, just more vague feelings that they can't quite comprehend, but it's the same energy that's interacting with them.
Yeah, I mean, to me at least, I'll let you talk, Michael, in just 1 second, sorry. But the house is very unassuming. I mean, you go in there and first thing you walk into, it just looks like a normal house. You go inside and you see all the nice little dolls around. And for me personally, it kind of, I think that whatever's there almost wants you to, I don't know why, but it seems to enjoy almost having that kind of laissez kind of effect, you know, it kind of just makes you feel comfortable. And it's, for me at least, as soon as I get comfortable in that house, and that's when it seems to lash out.
It's like schizophrenic.
What, Michael?
It's got like a schizophrenic personality. I mean, 1 minute it can be completely inviting, and then it'll turn on you in a heartbeat and rip you apart. I mean, it's definitely not someplace you want to go if you're in the middle of a divorce, if you're carrying something in there. You don't want to go to a place like that if you're going through some emotional trauma or some issues, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Did you want to play any of his EVPs that he captured?
Do we have any questions? Or I guess we're going to ask the viewers real quick if they have any questions for either David or Michael or...
Any questions? Guys, any questions?
Now this is, I actually have a question for you, for both, I'll let Michael answer it first. What do you think is the root of the haunting? The cause of it. Do you think it's geographical, or do you think it's because of...
You you know the front of the house is actually the back of the house, and the back of the house is actually the front of the house.
Right.
First of all, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, one of the things we found is river towns especially are pretty susceptible to hauntings and that type of energy. But there's quite a bit about the land that is, first of all, if you ever seen the reason the front of the house is the back of the house, the back of the front house is because 2nd Street had gotten washed away in a horrible flood. Now, if you ever seen a map of the flood, it actually, the tip of the flood, the epoch of the flood is right there at that house. There's also a story about the founders of the town, the tree down by the river, and kind of making a pact. I think there were 7 of them, of some sort of pact about picking up the town or something that went very wrong. Before anyone lived there, there were squatters, like cowboys, squatters that lived there, and they were really rough. And they treated the Indians that lived around the area very badly. When they moved the Potawatomis from southern Michigan and Indiana to Atchison, they were originally offered the land just on the other side of the river as their settlement. They wouldn't accept it. They said the land was bad, and they took some land a little further north. So there's really a lot of things about the land in general that we've come across over the years that seem to indicate that there's just something wrong about Atchison.
Right, in general, yeah.
I mean, Amelia Earhart lived a block over on the corner. You know, the cobblestone streets were all laid by a guy that had one arm and no legs. They built him a couple pair of wooden legs, which they keep in the museum there, and he pulled a cart of bricks around all over Atchison. You know, it's pretty hilly around there, and he laid all those bricks in the street by hand.
Yep.
We have a couple of questions from Cheyenne. She wants to know, has anyone ever tried to cleanse the house?
Many people, including when the Pickmans first started having real problems. They brought a friend of theirs in, a lady who was a shaman, if you will, and she was the first one to attempt to clear the house.
Oh, really?
But you know, clearing the house is a funny thing because if you're chasing spirits out of a location, even if you're successful at it, where are you chasing them exactly? You know, that's always the question. And secondly, a lot of times when they've had priests or whatever bless the house or whatever, the activity would die down for a little while, but then pick up again later on.
Okay.
It's just, you know, I have sort of issues about the concept of clearing.
David, did you have something to add?
You know, I will add that to that briefly, because people need to understand, I don't care if the Pope goes in there and cleanses the place. If you've got, you know, thousands of people that still believe that's the infamous Sallie House with all this activity occurring, then it's just going to surface again. You know, really the concept of cleansing in a lot of ways is what it does in a location that's not really well known. What it will do is it can move negative energies out, but more importantly, it can empower the people that are living in space to, you know, keep a positive vibration and keep positive energy within their home and keep it, you know, if they believe that this cleansing has worked, then it continues to work. But I'm kind of in agreement with Michael on this. I have some issues with the concept of cleansing. I think it has its place, but, you know, everyone automatically assumes that any location can just easily be cleansed, and it's simply not the case. 9 times out of 10, what you'll see is, as he's saying about the Sallie House, the activity will die down briefly, it sort of hits a lull, and then it just resurfaces again. Sometimes it comes back even worse.
Now, one of the things that I've encountered going there, I don't know if you, David or Michael, have encountered this, but Things at my house always seem to get crazy before I go there. And for the past couple of weeks, actually for the past month, things have been slowly picking up. And I haven't really been doing any investigations. I've just been kind of working and stuff. But have you guys experienced anything?
You know, I have not. I've
Okay.
been to what I consider some of the worst locations, you know, anywhere, and have been very fortunate and blessed in that I don't bring home things. I don't bring things home with me. I take a lot of measures. I'm sure that I don't because I have a family. So
Yeah.
I've never encountered that any of the times that I've been in the Sallie House. Now I will say that is a location that tends to tire me out a bit. So I find that, you know, once I've been in there investigating, when I leave, I feel pretty beat, you know, for a while. So I have to kind of recuperate. But no, I haven't brought anything out of there.
Right. Michael?
We have a joke that it knew when we were coming. We would have all kinds of stuff. I mean, I would lay in bed in the dark here in my bedroom, and the lights fly around the room. I mean, the whole place was electrified. It definitely knew you were coming, and I mean, we would joke about it because the things that would happen to us. Renee would constantly have coins falling out of cabinets. She'd open a glass or something, and dimes would fall out of the cabinet and hit her before the Sallie House. We all had different experiences, but I mean, it would always know when we were coming, and it would always just days before, like you were saying, days before, things would just act up all over the place.
Yes, weird.
So how do you think that that negative or that bad entity is in the house? How do you think it got there?
I don't know. I mean, it's just weird. It seems like, I don't know, last year, for me at least, we would do ITC sessions. And for the hell of it, I just thought, hey, you know, we'll try to contact. I'm sure some of the people in chat remember this. On the show, we said, hey, you know, we'll just try to reach out to the Sallie House. And immediately we started getting really, really clear responses. And it's weird. It's I can't explain it. Maybe it was the whole thought form suggestion through the chat, where the chat was imprinting the people that were watching the show were actually imprinting, you know, from what I told them, you know, what we were going to do. But it's interesting. You know, it just seems like whatever's there for whatever reason, at least for me, it seems to try to make contact.
You know, maybe all energy is connected too. I mean, you know, if you read Sheldrake or even actually Edgar Allan Poe's Eureka, you know, you understand that it's very quite possible, or young synchronicity, if you will. But if you believe it's possible that the energy at the house is so strong that it can actually reach out and connect with the energy of people who are getting ready to go investigate the house. You know, I've just seen and heard so many instances and stories of before investigations of experiences that it's hard to, you know, and we're talking about people who have investigated hundreds of places too and not have that happen to. But with the Sallie House, it was like it always knew you were there. And then it would always call you back too. I mean, there'd be days that me and other people who have investigated the house would call each other up and say, you know, I was just thinking about the house, and they're like, yeah, me too, we gotta go.
Well, it's so weird you say that, Michael, because one of the, Patrick, and David knows Patrick too, but after we did the show back in April, he told me, he said, you know, I'm never going back there. And I said, okay, because he had, you know, some really weird experiences at the house, and he said, I'm just terrified of the place. And he said, I'm never going back there. So about a month ago, I get a phone call from him, and it was almost like a person that's like addicted on drugs. They call you, and he called me at like 11:30 at night, which is really odd. And he said to me, He's like, we got to go back to the Sallie House. I just have to get out there. It was this weirdest thing coming from a guy who just didn't, you know, he told me, he said, I'm terrified of the house. He said, I always get sick when I get back from the house. I just never want to go there again.
If I had a quarter for every time one of us had said we're never going back there, and it's exactly the same thing. Oh, God, we're never going back there. I'm through with that place. It's just bad. We can't do it. You know, I'm done with that place. And then it calls you back again. I mean, I think I told you a story about how I was at my office in Chicago at the Board of Trade, and in the middle of the day, for no apparent reason at all, I went down and got in my car and drove to Atchison.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a short trip.
Yeah. Was it
I
like
got
2
so
hours?
worried on my way down, I actually had to call a couple friends to let them know that I was going because nobody knew I was going. I could not go. I just got in my car and drove down there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a question from Plum Nice. Are they trying to sell the home, or are they going to keep it for paranormal research? Does anyone know?
Les owns about 11 properties, and he's definitely keeping the house. At one time, he talked about selling it, but, you know, he wanted, like, I don't know, $1 million for it or something. Or, actually, you know what, it wasn't Les, it was his brother that tried to sell the house without Les knowing about it. But, yeah, no, Les is not going to sell the house.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Do you want to play any of those EVPs?
Yeah, let's play some of the EVPs here.
Okay. Okay, can you read them?
The first one is called It's Halloween.
No, it's down here.
Is that the Okay. Okay, so the first one is
Maggots.
called Maggot's Voice.
Okay, let me explain this one real quick.
Okay.
One of the things that we found, and one of the postulates that I've been working with, is called voice borrowing, and it's where the energy that manipulates the atmospheric particles actually uses the researchers' voices to create microsound communication or EVP. You'll hear my voice talking about maggots, but you'll also hear my voice underneath it talking about how I left some equipment downstairs. Now, you'll hear the voice wind up, you'll hear it go, rrr, 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 and you'll hear it wind down and go, rrr, 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 afterwards. But in the middle of it, you'll hear it say, there are maggots all over here, which I didn't say. And you actually can hear me underneath it talking about, hey, I'm sorry guys, I forgot some equipment downstairs, I gotta go get it. So the spirit energy or the entity actually took the frequency, the waveform or energy of my voice and was able to use it and actually maintain the vocal qualities, the vocal patterns of my voice. So this is voice borrowing.
And we actually have evidence of that as well. Yep. Yep.
Do you want to play?
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and play it right now here. Give me 1 second here. So this is called Maggot's Voice Borrowing.
Can't find my freaking maggots running around. I'm sorry about this. Alright, let's get this.
Oh. Wait, okay, we'll play that again here.
I didn't hear it.
Okay. What's voice borrowing? It's very,
Can't find my freaking maggots running around. I'm sorry about this. Alright, let's get this.
And was that his voice?
Michael, so just to make clear, where it says maggots running around, that's not you, right?
That's not me.
Wow.
That wasn't you? That sounded like you.
Yeah,
Is that what that is?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, did you viewers hear that? Did you understand that? Guys, hello, did you guys understand that voice
Hey, Michael,
borrowing?
quick question here. Do you have like a I mean, everyone does not like maggots, but are they like? Are you fearful of maggots?
No, not at all.
Okay, weird. Okay,
Oh, that's weird. Oh my God.
pretty cool.
Actually, there
Yeah.
was another EVP that we caught later on in the day that was talking about maggots in a teacup or something, which wasn't my voice.
Weird.
So we actually, the part says, I'm sorry about this, guys. That was me, but the maggots bit, and you hear it winding up real weird and
Yeah.
winding down. You hear how it wound up? It was really weird. Like it was like molding my voice
Oh
to get the right
my
frequency.
God. That's crazy. I never heard anything like that
Isn't it crazy?
before.
It's pretty clear.
Oh my God. Okay, so I can't read. What is
This
it?
one's called S or 5 Men B. Pour Her In.
Yeah, it was January, and Deborah Pickman and I were in the house. Deborah was warming herself by, in the living room they have the vents, and it was blowing out hot air. I was taking a picture of Deborah, and I said, this is how Deborah Pickman keeps warm. And I thought I heard something behind me. I turned around, and there was nothing there. And you hear a voice go, Father, pour her in.
Okay, let's give it a listen here. That's pretty crazy. Pour her in. Yeah, we actually have a voice like that from the last time that we went there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So the next one is Pour Her In 1. Is that the same recording?
What, I'm sorry, what's the name?
Is Pour Her In 1, is that the same recording?
Yeah, that's probably the same recording.
Okay, so we're gonna play They Don't Bleed.
This is the one I was telling you about when me and Todd went into the house after the film crew ran out of there, and I was telling him the walls are, I hate to tell you this, the walls aren't too white, and you hear a voice go, they don't bleed.
Okay, we'll give it a listen here.
I hate to say this, but these walls are not too white. I hate to say this, but these walls are not too white.
Weird, I hear it. I'll play it one more time here. That's cool. Whoops. So the next one here is called Singing Apparatio.
Arpeggio.
Apparatio.
We got an Irish woman, and the Finneys, of course, were Irish, and we got a woman singing arpeggio, and you'll hear the woman, and you can actually listen closely. You'll hear her kind of a brogue in her voice as she's humming this arpeggio.
Huh, weird. Okay, we'll go ahead and play it right now for everybody. Is everybody in the chat hearing these okay?
Yeah, the singing. That's weird.
That's cool. Die Here. And you know what's cool, Michael, before I play this, is we have an EVP. I asked, are you spending your afterlife here? Do you want to move on? And I got this really crazy voice that says, no, I like it here, on one of mine. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah, I guess pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think they want to. On this one, on Die Here, you'll hear two voices. One I call the old hag. You'll hear researchers talking, but you'll hear this woman go, I think Todd was turning on his laptop or something, and you'll hear that kind of beep, and you'll hear a voice go, Die Here. And then you'll hear a very panicked woman say, well, why here? Which is very clear. So you'll hear, if you listen very closely, at first you'll hear the old hag say, Die Here, and then a panicked woman responding to her, asking, why here?
Okay. Alright, we're going to play it here.
Die now.
That's wild.
Could the answer is heart was higher or right now? Why?
Oh, that's weird.
That's creepy. That gave me the chills.
Oh, yeah. That's
You guys hear that one okay?
Yeah. God, be careful.
Yeah. Deborah and Todd are talking about how tired they're. Deborah's talking about being exhausted and tired, and we were at the end of a long night. And you'll hear a voice go, "Oh God, be careful."
Wow. Okay, let's go. Let's go listen here.
Anything? Could the answer is heart was higher or brain should start working? Anything? Could the answer is heart was higher or brain should start working?
It seems to be that same female voice.
Yeah, it's very creepy.
The next one I can tell that you're using iTunes, or as I call it, Y-Tunes. The next one is the same Irish
me.
woman that was singing the arpeggio. She's saying the blue and the gold will catch the light. And what's interesting about this EVP is it kind of took on a life of its own, because then everybody started talking about blue and gold chakras, which are the crown and throat chakras for communication. Ron James, who filmed Dead Whisper, started to bring in, actually him and Tom Naughton teamed together from A Haunting, and they brought in equipment to do experiments with blue and yellow filtered lights, and this whole thing about what does the blue and the gold mean, so this like EVP kind of takes on this life of its own, as far as not so much that, hey, this is a very clear Irish woman who's, not here speaking, but all of a sudden everyone's like, but what does she mean? So it's like the actual message became even more important than the EVP itself. So it's kind of neat. It kind of took on a life of its own. You'll definitely hear the Irish woman. And she said the blue and the gold could catch the light.
Okay.
The blue and the gold could catch the light. The blue and the gold could catch the light.
Now that sounds like an older lady.
Yeah.
The blue and the gold could catch the light.
That's weird. Wow.
All right. Won't sleep tight. Finish this.
Yeah, you'll hear a voice, and it actually sounds a little bit like Todd Bates, but it isn't because we have it on film. It says, "Won't sleep tight. Finish this."
Okay.
I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it. That one's hard to pick up through iTunes. This is kind of a weird question, but have any, David or Michael, have you guys ever slept in the house?
Yeah, actually, many times, almost every time.
Okay.
In fact, actually, one time it was just me and my research partner, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, I decided I had to go for a walk. And you know, that part of town is like a college town. In fact, some college fraternity rented out the house next door for a while. And the place is weird because it's like awake all night long, And I left her sleeping on the couch on the love seat there and went for a little walk. She was not too happy when she found out that I had. I've spent a lot of nights there. I've slept in probably all the rooms at one point or another. One time I was sleeping. The one weird thing one time I fell asleep on the love seat when it was in by where the kitchen table is. And everybody went upstairs to do EVP recordings with Tony and Deb, and left me down there alone. And something shook me awake, and I was alone. And I really wasn't happy about that. The other time I was sleeping on the floor, like from where the front door is, you know, like if you were to, you know, pathway from the front door to the kitchen or the dining room. I was sleeping there, and Renee Leaker, Bird's mom, was sleeping next to me by the heater because it was like cold. And all night long, I felt people stepping over me when there was none, you know.
Yeah. David, have you ever slept in the house?
No, I have not slept in the house.
Yeah, it's a weird, weird experience. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Michael and David, thank you so much for joining me on the show, and with Tim as well. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to having you again on the show. David, you're always welcome, and Michael, I'd love to have you back again and talk with you some more.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, Norene. It's been a pleasure.
yeah,
Thanks,
I'll
guys.
be talking with you, David. Thank you so much, and Michael, thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks,
Good night,
Michael.
guys.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, David.
Okay, hang. Okay, yeah. Okay.
That was great.
Wow. You know what? Those EVPs, it sounded like a couple of them was the same female voice, but then there was an older woman, and I guess there was a man as well.
Yep.
So they
Yep.
got, how many entities are in this house?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. All I know.
You've investigated this house many times.
And that's the thing. It's like a big puzzle that has many pieces that I'm just trying to figure out.
So do you want to tell the viewers what's going on?
Yeah, so you guys, next week, I'm sure you guys already heard about it. We're going to be doing a show on livesci-fi.tv that's sponsored by Yahoo. We're going to be sleeping in the house and pretty much locked down in the house for 48 hours. And we're going to be documenting all of our experiences live on our site and on Yahoo. So I invite you guys to come and really help us, try to figure out and understand some of the mysteries that haunt the house.
But you've been the spirits that you've been in contact with aren't very nice.
No, I think they're demonic. I think the house is infested with demonic activity.
So the woman, the last woman that rented the house, she's the one that did that devil.
Yeah, it is.
What do they call that? An occult symbol? What is that?
Pentagram.
A pentagram.
Yeah,
And what is a
yeah.
pentagram used for?
Some people, some people use it to summon, some people use it to close. What the actual intentions of it were, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but all I know is that through my research, I believe that there's something seriously negative in the house.
I had a question, and I don't know if anybody can answer this. The house, the fella that owns this now, did he ever live in the house?
Not to my knowledge. No.
Okay, he never lived in the house, and so his purpose was to rent this house out?
Yep, rental property.
So the people that have lived or rented the house, according to what I've read, many people that have rented the house weren't able to live in the house. They couldn't stay for very long. But how many people were that? I mean, how many families tried to
There's
live in
been
the house?
people there that have experienced no activity.
Oh, is that
And
right?
it's only from when the Pickmans lived there, I believe that. And there were people there that, like Michael said, the tenant before them that had like a little girl that was talking to somebody.
Okay, that's that lady,
it.
and then the Pickmans. But what about before the Pickmans?
There was nothing really, as far as my research goes, there was nothing that people encountered that would be considered paranormal. So there's definitely a trigger point that I look at with the activity, and I think part of that is, there's trigger. I always look at hauntings and try to figure out what the trigger points are, because that's, to me, is what helps you understand what's going on there.
So when you say trigger, could that be the people that
resided
in the house,
there at one point,
caused
yeah.
some problems or stirred something up?
Yeah. So
Interesting.
there's oftentimes there's trigger points, and sometimes it's just geographic location that with the property.
So why would this woman draw that symbol in the
I think
basement?
she was just trying to cleanse it out. I mean, I don't really know. I've never.
But
spoken to her.
according to Michael, she did it wrong.
Yeah, I think. Well, that's the thing. I think I don't really believe in that stuff.
Oh, you don't?
I'm not a witch. I don't really believe. Like, I don't have a broom in my closet or anything. But I don't really believe in that. But I do think that there was something there that triggered all this negative activity. Something brought it in, and through like my research is I believe that whatever's there, no matter how strong it is stuck there.
Oh, it's stuck there? Really?
I think there's some part of it there that can't be cleansed. It can't be. I think John Zappis said the house can never be cleansed. There's certain houses that just cannot be cleansed. So, I almost look at like negative activity, like a worm. You cut off a piece of it, but some of it's still alive. So that's how I kind of look at negative. It sounds kind of weird, but sometimes it just gets separated and it's just like living on its own. I think by people going in there and doing other stuff, they're doing rituals wrong or whatever they did there. I don't know, but I think just by doing some of that stuff has actually increased the activity over time to where, it's where it is today.
So, what is your intent this time when you go back to the Sallie House?
My intent, I'm not, I don't really do private investigations anymore. I just, my intent is just to document the activity and use the equipment that we have to document and try to figure out what the trigger point is, what's going on there, and try to bring it to a point where it has no other goal but to interact with us.
Now, Tim, I know of how you do investigations, and you've really evolved in your paranormal investigations that you do, and you are the cutting edge of paranormal investigating, because what you do, nobody else does. And I'm very curious to see what you're going to be doing on your next live investigation at the Sallie House.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of interesting things. A lot of you guys know I like using older techniques and kind of mixing the old in with the new. So pretty much the theme of the show is going to be kind of mixing in old spirit communication techniques and doing a modern twist on them, because that's what we've had luck with in the past. So we're going to be using some new devices there, and we're going to actually be bringing some devices and some objects into the house to see, just to see. I'm always like to experiment, so we're going to be bringing some objects into the house and seeing how the house interacts with these various objects.
Now, you, in the past, you have been actually scratched.
Yeah, I have scar marks on my back from the last time we went to the house.
And why did this happen to you? What were you doing?
I was provoking, but the thing is about the house is a lot of people don't know this. I went out there in 2008. The first time I went out there was in 2008 with a group called KMPS. I don't know if they're still around anymore. I was invited out there, and I had got scratched, but I didn't tell anybody on camera just because I was actually sleeping when it happened, and I went back, last year, and for whatever reason, the activity there targets certain people at certain times. And it's not like you could just be in there. It's the house. I think presents itself in whatever form initially to people to make them feel give them a certain comfort level. Yeah, people walk in there and say it's a demonic location, but when you go in there, there's a sofa in there. There's teddy bears, there's children's stuff around the house. You go in there, it just looks like a normal house and you feel all comfortable. And it's that moment when you get to a point where you start thinking, oh, there's nothing here. And right at that moment, when you're by yourself, it'll attack you. And that's, I mean, why I think that there's something there very demonic, because it looks for that opening where your guard is down and you start thinking, hey, you know, there's nothing here. You know, and it's at that moment where anybody who I've been on an investigation with, whether it's Patrick, John, Scott, they have all been attacked.
Oh, they have?
Yep.
Were they
like
attacked?
Scott actually has, we have photos, and it was actually Kurt on the street. He had bite marks on his back.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What was he doing the cause of that?
He was just standing there holding the camera.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So and to me, you guys are probably thinking, well, why the hell does he want to go back there? To me, this is like Disneyland. There's very few places in the world that I've traveled to where, actually none that I've traveled to, and all the locations that I've been to that are as compelling and as active as this location. So, you know, it's very, to me, it's I like the challenge, and I like, you know.
So the first night that you're there, and if you guys start getting attacked, will you continue on?
Oh yeah,
the next day?
yeah, definitely. Whenever I'll stay no matter what.
Now, when you do your EVPs and you've played them back,
And the reason why is because, I mean, a lot of people think, well, he's crazy, he's going to get possessed. For my belief, and this is what's got me through like these locations over there, like going to Valeska, going to Bobby Mackey's, is I think no matter what, we have the ultimate control. You know, as long as you don't release that or give that up, you know, it's
all right.
it's
Do you believe that when you go to these places such as the Sallie House, which is what, the number 15
or 14, yeah, 15,
in
14,
the most
yeah.
haunted locations,
Yeah.
do you believe that you can bring something back with you on the dark side?
I don't, but I do think it can interact with you. I don't think, you know, this is what I tell myself. I don't know. No one knows for a fact what happens in the paranormal world, but I think what I do is just tell myself no. 'Cause, to me, like 99% of the battle when you go to these places is mental. You have to, you know, people say, well, it's spiritual. Well, I believe it's mental. You know, as long as you prepare mentally for it, you're okay. It's got me through it this many years, so, you know.
Oh, Plum Nice is asking a question.
Yeah, what's the question? Hey, Plum. Hey, everybody. Hello. Never had a chance to say hello to everybody.
She wants to know about the box.
So we have, a while back, somebody sent me a Divic box. What do you guys want me to say about
She
it?
wants to know, Tim, how is the Devic box experiment going? Are you taking the box to the Sallie House?
Yeah, we're talking about bringing the Divic box to the house. It's just for experiment reasons. I don't know what we're gonna do with it, but yeah, we're thinking about bringing it to the house. But the box is just a haunted object that I've decided to kind of experiment with at home, just to document and see if there's any strange happenings with it. And it's real hard for me to know right now if it's the box is what's causing stuff at my house, or if it's the Sallie House. Because last year I had a lot of activity. Every time I go to Sallie House, I always get
But
affected.
why do you think that is? Is it because you get yourself worked up? What
No,
is
I
it?
just think that there's something there that
It knows you're
it
coming.
knows I'm coming, and it wants to. Fear is a very powerful thing. I think, and as soon as, you know, the Sallie House, you know, as soon as something happens, someone gets scratched, someone gets attacked, the fear, as soon as there's fear introduced in the house, And that's why I believe it to be a demonic spirit in the house, is because it lulls you into being comfortable, and then it waits for that moment to strike where it can get the most fear out of you. It's almost like that movie Monsters Incorporated, where it's a cartoon movie.
I've seen it.
Yeah, it's like where they have these monsters going around. They try to scare the kids. Well, it's kind of like that, where I think it thrives off of this type of negative energy, and it knows that it can get a lot more fear out of you if it just strikes you at the right time. And I think by implanting or communicating with people before the location, it's kind of revving you up and already, I don't know, but yeah, it's a freaky place.
Too, I mean, you go in